Episode 1. Even after knowing everything, didn't you feel any mercy while doing this? A woman's voice shattered the silence that had settled over the bungalow. It trembled with grief and anger. Didn't you even think for once that I could lose my life? Fire burned in her beautiful eyes, fixed on the tall young man standing in front of her, but he avoided her gaze. If someone you loved were in my place, would you have done the same to them? Tell me. She pushed him hard, both hands pressed against his broad chest. He stumbled back. I'm sorry. For the first time, his deep voice was heard. Sorry? She repeated in disbelief. Will your sorry fix everything? No, it won't. But it has to be done, and I'll do it. His voice was still low, but now it carried resolve instead of shame. I will fix what I ruined. Oh, really? You'll fix it? How? The way you... Her angry sarcasm was cut short. Suddenly, all the lights in the hall went out. The entire bungalow drowned in darkness. Silence began to breathe heavily. Both of them tried to look around in confusion, but the pitch-black darkness showed nothing. Yet, two white eyes were watching them. Even in the dark, those eyes could see them clearly, as if through night vision. But this was no camera, and those eyes were not human. It was a different kind of sight, powerful and terrifying. Had they heard its growl, their blood would have frozen in their veins. All of a sudden, a violent wind burst in through the hall door like a storm. The lights flickered back on, then off, then began flashing wildly. They realized things were getting out of control. What they had feared had finally arrived, and it could swallow them at any moment. We need to get out of here. Hurry. A strong hand grabbed her fragile wrist. She was shaken by everything happening around them. She didn't resist his grip, just followed him in shock. As he tried to take her outside, the huge wooden door slammed shut on its own. They froze. He tried to open it immediately, but panic grew. The lock wouldn't budge. It was jammed, unmoved even by all his strength. What do we do now? She asked, terrified. Come here. He pulled her into the drawing room and rushed toward the large glass window that opened to the lawn. He tried to open it, but it wouldn't move. The sound of destruction grew louder. Stormy winds howled. The lights flickered faster. He grabbed a marble vase and smashed it into the window. The glass shattered outward, and the vase slipped from his hand, falling outside. A way opened, but it was narrow and sharp. He cleared more glass with his right hand, cutting himself in the process. Blood was the price of escape. He didn't care about himself. He only wanted to get her out of the danger he had trapped her in. He jumped out first, then reached his hand back for her. Holding his hand, she tried to climb through the window when suddenly some unseen force grabbed her legs. Her heart skipped. Something's holding my legs. I can't get out. Her voice shook with fear. Remember God with loud voice. He was frightened too, seeing her struggle, but he didn't lose control. While guiding her, he pulled with all his strength. They succeeded. Outside, there was complete silence. The storm that had raged inside the bungalow didn't exist on the lawn at all. Ignoring everything else, they moved away from that place as fast as they could, unaware that the danger hadn't ended yet. It had only begun. Sometime earlier. Greetings to all our listeners. This is RJ Sophia. Good morning. She sat inside the on-air studio. The red light was on, announcing that her warm, lively voice was reaching people live through the microphone. She wasn't a proud beauty queen, but her golden complexion and attractive features carried enough charm to make people look twice. When she spoke gently with her sweet voice and positive words, calm spread through many hearts. Old wounds began to heal. She was simple, kind, and hopeful. RJ Sophia. Yesterday, I talked a lot on my own, she smiled. So today, without wasting time, let's take our first caller. Hello, who's with us? Hi, Sophia. This is Kim. Yes, Kim. How are you? Any special request? No request. I just have a question. Of course. Should we believe in fairy tales? Sophia raised her brows thoughtfully. What kind of fairy tales? Like in stories when a prince suddenly saves a princess in trouble and then they live happily ever after. Should we expect that in real life, or should we just live with reality? Sophia smiled gently. This needed a careful answer. That's a tough question. I don't know the perfect answer. This is just my opinion. Real life isn't a fairy tale, but it's not so cruel that we should give up hope. Yes, life brings problems, money issues, family troubles, illness, but we find the strength to face them only when we believe that one day things will get better. Maybe that day is the real prince of life. The day you get your dream degree or job, the day you recover from illness, the day a family issue gets solved, the day a big problem finally ends. She spoke smoothly. There was silence on the other end. But apart from that, should we wait for an actual prince? The caller asked again. Sophia rested her elbows on the table, smiling knowingly. We shouldn't sit and wait. We should keep moving, with hope. Not waiting with folded hands, believing someone will accept us exactly as we are and fulfill all our needs. We should work on ourselves, how we dress, how we think, how we speak. We should keep becoming better people. And then, if we meet a prince on that journey, we should hold his hand. She balanced reality and hope carefully. Do you have such a prince in your life? The caller asked eagerly. Sophia laughed. In my life? Suddenly, the radio turned off. Daniel snapped out of his focus and looked toward the counter where the radio was placed. Why did you turn it off, George? Daniel asked in surprise. Because it doesn't run for free. It uses electricity and we pay the bill, George replied sarcastically, clearly irritated. Seeing his mood, Daniel chose silence. He finished his tea, stepped out, got on his bike, put on his black sunglasses, and rode off. Winter morning had just begun. Tea stalls smelled of fresh tea, birds filled the sky, people filled the roads, everyone searching for their daily living. Daniel wore a black leather jacket over jeans and a t-shirt. His expression, as always, was serious. Soon he reached his destination, Skyline Real Estates. A short while after Daniel arrived, Max showed up as well. Daniel and Max were friends. Max was married, a father to a little child, and steadily employed. The real estate agency was only his part-time work. Daniel, on the other hand, had no one he could call family, nor did he have a permanent job. This agency was all he had to his name. They had pooled their money and opened the agency as partners, believing it would bring them good profit. But that belief proved to be nothing more than wishful thinking. When Max stepped into the office, the mess before him made him stop in his tracks for a moment. Almost all the files from the shelves were scattered across the table. Daniel stood beside it, flipping through them restlessly. "Danny, what kind of chaos is this?" Max asked as he walked closer. "Looking for a client," came the busy reply. "Why are you so desperate for clients these days?" Max sat down on the single chair in the room. "Because no client means no commission." Daniel set one file aside, pulled out a cigarette pack and lighter from his jacket, and calmly lit a cigarette. "Get rid of this file at least," Max said. "Which one?" "This one, bungalow number 396. He pointed at a red file placed separately and began gathering the rest of the files together. Curious, Daniel picked up the file and started reading. "Has this bungalow been sold?" he asked, turning the pages. "Sold? It's more like a stone stuck in the owner's throat. Then why hasn't anyone closed a deal? Is the owner not paying commission?" Each answer only gave birth to another question.
The owner is ready to pay whatever commission is asked for, but no one is willing to buy that bungalow. Why? That bungalow is haunted. Daniel froze at Max's words. They say someone died there 5 years ago. After that, the owners left, and the place has never been lived in again. People in the neighborhood often hear a piano playing and sounds of crying and screaming coming from inside. The whole area sees that bungalow as a symbol of fear. Who would want to buy a place like that? Max laid out the details. Daniel was so stunned that he forgot to take a drag from his cigarette. It kept burning between his fingers. What would be the value of this bungalow? Daniel crushed the finished cigarette into the ashtray.
At the very least, worth millions. So if the deal goes through, the commission will be huge. It wasn't a question, it was a conclusion. No, there will be no deal and no commission either. Max made the prediction in advance. There will be a deal. The 3 words were firm and final. Max looked at him in shock. Deep thought shadowed Daniel's handsome face. His dark eyes were fixed on the file. It's useless, Daniel. No agent has managed to pull this off so far, Max warned him, sensing his intention. That's exactly why, because this job will be done by me. The quiet confidence in his voice was impossible to miss. The jackpot he had been waiting for all this time was finally in sight. Now, claiming it was his next goal.